Hello, darlings. Hello, hello. Lucinda Bassett coming live to you from Los Angeles. And boy, I've had a hell of a couple weeks. I mean, let me tell you, I really have. So I really thought that I would share them with you because there's Ray, I want to use some of the document you sent me because it's just so freaking good. So happy New Year, everybody. I hope that you're healthy. That's the most important thing. I don't know, last time we talked, I think I was going skiing. Remember that? I was going to Aspen. And for those of you who remember that, I never went. So then the irony of the whole freaking nightmare was I don't know, I think it was right after my last session, which was probably mid-December, everything started getting really bad with Omicron. And so my brilliant fiance, who's a doctor, and I decided that, by the time you get on a plane and you get to Aspen, you're going to be in very exposed areas with small, crowded restaurants. And, I think we all just got thrown this thing in the beginning of December. And it went from, we can manage this to what the F, this is out of control. And those of us who are sitting around going, well, are you vaccinated? Well, yeah, I'm vaccinated. Are you vaccinated? Then it went from, are you vaccinated to, you got a booster? Yeah, I've got a booster. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter. Okay. And don't get me wrong, Murray and I did a Zoom, I think it was last week. I can't remember right now. My days have run together 2 weeks ago. And the truth of the matter is, whether you're an anti-vaxxer or a vaxxer, it's a proven fact that if you get this vaccinated, and by the way, you probably will, okay, you are going to suffer much less than those probably who weren't vaccinated because, the vaccination and the booster does protect you from getting into a serious illness. And that's why there are less people getting seriously ill. And that's why there are less people in the hospital. And if you don't want to believe it, you don't have to believe me. Just Google the shit, okay? It's pretty obvious that if the people that are ending up in the hospitals are those who aren't vaccinated, and as you're seeing some are children, the thing that's so weird, and one of the things I want to talk about tonight is just all the different bullshit things that are going around and nobody knows what to believe, and it's really hard. 1 minute we're being told we're protected, and the next minute we're being told even if you're vaccinated, you're not really protected. And then 1 minute we're told that the PCR tests work. And then 1 minute we're being told that, for example, a great example would be the production, in one of the productions in New York, Music Man, what's this, Jackson, what is his name, you guys? Come on, Hugh Jackson is the lead. And first the female lead got COVID, you probably know the story. Then Hugh got COVID. He's going to step out for 5 days. I think the show's already back on. And the CDC says you've only got to step back for 5 days. And if you're not symptomatic, you can wear a mask. And if you are symptomatic, wear a mask. But after 5 days, you're probably not infectious anymore. But again, who knows what they're saying today? But what was interesting about the Music Man is, there was a cast party, and they made everyone get a PCR, and everybody had to test negative. And then when they got to the party, they had to have the instant rapid test. And you had to test negative to get into the party. And yet after the party, a third of the cast who attended the party got COVID. And you say, that's odd. How does that happen? Right now, you're probably saying everything's odd because everything is odd. But first, I want to start off by saying I'm Lucinda Bassett, anxiety guru extraordinaire. I'm the author of a program called Attacking Anxiety and Depression, which many of you have gone through. It's still available on Amazon. People ask me, how do you get that program? But I am creating a new program this year with some of my favorite people. It's going to blow that one out of water. Meanwhile, you can get that one on Amazon. I don't own it anymore, but I did write it and I recorded it, and it's changed a million people's lives. Other than that, I have a podcast, and you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Let Go with Lucinda. And I hope you keep, listening to the Zoom calls and follow me on the podcast, because it's my goal and my desire to provide you with motivation and information. That's it. I don't want anything else from you. I don't want to look at you. No, it's just And, I think tonight's session is very important. They're all important. But the reason this one's important is because guess who got COVID this past 2 weeks? Yeah, that's right. Moi. And I actually recorded a segment last week. I was pretty sick, and I'll probably air it on YouTube or something. Maybe I'll air it next week. I don't know. I just sat down in front of the camera and I started shooting because I thought, wow, there are so many things I wish someone would have told me before I got COVID so that I would have been prepared. And so I'm going to share some of those things with you because, maybe that's why I got it. I mean, there's no reason that anybody gets it. And one of the things I really want to stress tonight are guilt, blame, anger, and shame. And all you terrible, nasty people out there, shaming people and making them and blaming people for getting COVID because, so many people got it now. So many people are going to get it. I don't care if you're vaccinated. I don't care if you wear masks all day and you get boosted. I got it, and I had all of the above. And so it's the kind of thing where unless you're living at home in a shell, and I know people who are doing that and they still got it. So I think the idea isn't to say, gee, I'm just not going to get it. Although I would hope that you don't. The idea, I'm going to stay up closer so you can hear me. I'm going to get one of those little mics though, because I used to have a mic and then I got rid of the mic because it wasn't compatible with my desktop. And so now I'm getting a mic. But my point is, I'm going to tell you what you need in case you get it. What should you have at your house? Because if you get it, it's not like you're going to go, oh, gee, I think I'm getting COVID next week. All of a sudden, you're going to go, you know what? I don't feel good. That's how it started with me. It was over the holidays. And I had, I think I know where I got it, but I'm not 100% sure. And all of a sudden, and I tested myself because I heard somebody was positive and I was negative. Okay. And then the next day, I'm like, I'm having chills. I have a headache. And I just feel exhausted. And those were my symptoms. And I happened to have some rapid tests here. And I took a test and it tested positive. But I'm going to tell you, my fiance took a test and his was negative. And we were with the same people. And so I said, hey, you head out and I'm going to sit here and be miserable. So that was the first, I got it, and the first day I got it, I felt pretty shitty. But what was interesting, if you're someone who struggles with bronchitis or asthma, that's what kicked in for me. So I'm really like, hey, I'm okay. I took some Tylenol and I drank a lot of water. But by about 11 o'clock that night, oh my God, my bronchitis really kicked in. For those of you who get that, I couldn't breathe. I was sweating. I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. And I called my fiance and I said, I need a Z-Pak. So that leads me to what should you have at home? And if you don't, please go to the drugstore when you get off this call. You want a thermometer, not a rectal thermometer, you guys. I mean, if you want a rectal thermometer, but they make the one you put on your forehead. I personally like the one you put on your tongue. So you need a thermometer, bottled water. You need a pulse ox. It's a little thing you buy at the drugstore. You put your finger in it. Tends to give me a lot of anxiety, and it tells you if your pulse if you're getting enough oxygen. It's an anxiety provoking test. However, when you stick your finger in that little thing and you're 95 or above, you go, I'm not going to get pneumonia. Okay. Because my big fear was that I was going to get pneumonia, asthma, get pneumonia. It is interesting how when you get it and you come and you realize you're positive and you're all by yourself, it's scary. Okay. So you want to get a thermometer, you want Tylenol, you want Advil, you want a pulse ox, which you can buy at the drugstore. You want some NyQuil, and you should ask your doctor for a Z-Pak. And and food. Make sure you've got some munchies in there, some soup, chicken soup, anything. Because when you get it, if you get it, you're not going to know that you're getting it. You're just going to get it. And then you're going to go, where's the Tylenol? Where's the thermometer? Do you have a fever? I don't have a thermometer. Well, what's your pulse ox? I don't have a pulse ox. What the hell is a pulse ox? And you're going to want to know if you have a fever because you're going to sweat maybe. And you might want to, and the ZQuil is so helpful. I'm sorry, NyQuil, because, it kind of feels like, let me put your messages up there because I can see Somebody's already messaging me. Can't imagine who it is. Oh, that's right. Thank you. You want to make sure you have zinc and D, vitamin D and C. So don't overdo it. Take the recommended dose. Vitamin C can give you kidney stones. I mean, too much of it. So that's what you need. Let's go through the list again. A thermometer, a pulse ox, Tylenol, Advil, bottled water, vitamin D, vitamin zinc, and vitamin C. And then I would get a Z-Pack, because that is an antibiotic that if you know that you're someone who's prone to getting bronchial infections, you start that antibiotic the minute you feel that it's going into your bronchitis, into a bronchitis experience, and it won't get as bad. So I got it right around Christmas, and I was pretty sick. And I have to tell you, I was exhausted. And I want to share it with you because like my legs felt really tired. And you know me, I have the energy of 1,000 elephants. I don't know if that's good or bad. And I couldn't do anything. I was like, oh my God. And so I couldn't go see my daughter for Christmas and take her presents. I couldn't see my grandson. I had to sit home by myself with a Christmas tree and presents. And I was sad and I was lonely. And then at 11:30 at night, it always gets worse at night, at least it tends to. There I was alone and scared, and I couldn't breathe, and I didn't have the right things. I didn't have Tylenol, I didn't have a thermometer, I didn't have an oximeter, I didn't have a Z-Pack. And so luckily I happened to be dating a doctor, and he brought me all that stuff, thank God. And he slept in another room and left the next day. And I tested him that morning. He was negative. He tested himself, and he left. And I just sat here sick. And I'm someone that likes to run around and clean my house and get things done. And I couldn't lift a finger. I couldn't clean the house. I couldn't get anything done. Of course, you can't go anywhere. And I'm not good at sitting around watching TV, but I did. I would try to get up and do something, and then I would just go back to bed and just lay there. And I just got myself into like watching a movie. Or you know what I'd love to watch? I am addicted to YouTube channels. And I'm on YouTube, but I love to go to the YouTube channel and watch interviews with Walter Cronkite, the story of James Taylor and Carly Simon, whatever. I've told you this before. I'm kind of addicted to YouTube. So that's what I did. And then, the CDC says by day 5, supposedly, and this is the latest information that I've read, you're most infectious 2 days prior to getting it. Once you're infected, 2 days prior to symptoms, and then 3 days after symptoms start. So, and they're saying now that at day 5, if you're asymptomatic, you can wear a mask and go about your business. If you're symptomatic, you can wear a mask and you can still go about your business to stay away from people. But I'm telling you, by day 5, I was really sick. I couldn't have done anything. The bottom line is, I think that, I'm on day 10 or 11 now. And so supposedly I'm not infectious. Supposedly I'm on my way. And yet I still have bronchitis. And then it becomes, well, is bronchitis infectious? Well, it depends on what kind you have, bacterial or chronic or whatever. So, it's all such a big unknown that it's creating a lot of anxiety in all of us. And then you get it and you're anxious because you think, wow, what if I'm one of the very few that end up getting some secondary issue? And I wasn't, and I'm getting beyond it. And ironically, Murray tested negative, but when he left, I looked down at his rapid test about an hour and a half later, and it said positive. He's like, no, you can't base anything on an hour and a half later with rapid tests. And then like 3 days later, he retested himself, and sure enough, he was positive. So the good news is we had it together. And he had his second booster. So he had a very mild case. All he had was the sniffles, and he was sneezing. That's it. I got much more sick than he did. And it was very scary. And I wanted to share that with you because, Ray, one of my favorite people on this chat, sent me this article that I thought was pretty brilliant. And it says that, the day has finally arrived with cases soaring in all of the country and hitting everyone of every class, whether they're being careful or they're using masks and getting vaccines. We're not protected against the infection the way we thought we would. it doesn't seem like it's not as severe and there aren't as many hospitalizations, but the bottom line is millions of people from every class. And the reason I say that, this article so beautifully states that initially it was like, okay, well, male men and essential workers, people that work at grocery stores and hospitals, they can work. Everybody else stay home and stay safe, which isn't fair. And it kind of worked, but not really. And a lot of people got sick and a lot of people died. And now people someone comes down with COVID and they're like, well, were you vaccinated? And then, yes, I was vaccinated and boosted. And what people are realizing is that there's nothing we can really do to protect ourselves. I mean, I'm not saying you can't stay home and live in a bubble and not get it. You probably can. But I think what we're realizing is that the rules are changing and people shouldn't be shamed. And this came right out of the Washington Post. Feeling ashamed about getting COVID isn't healthy or helpful. You're not a failure. This is not your fault. Millions of other people have gotten sick. Unfortunately, you're not alone. You're not the only one. You're not the first, nor will you be the last. And that positive test doesn't make you an irresponsible person. It makes you someone who got COVID. And I even for me, I had my people, well, how did you get it? Well, were you vaccinated? Or who were you with that you think had it? And then, then now, like, I finally put a mask on and ran an errand. And someone said to me, don't you have COVID? I'm on 10th or 11th day here. I can put a mask on and drive my car. You shouldn't be out. You could infect somebody. No, I'm not going to infect somebody in 10 days. It's amazing how fast to judge and critical and harsh and nasty people are, because they think that they're above it. Well, you're not above it. And I wasn't above it. And I got it. And I consider myself pretty careful. But what I was really shocked is how unprepared I was to get it. And like, my house was focused from the holidays and I couldn't have a housekeeper come over and I didn't have the energy to even do my own dishes. I was out of dishwashing. So, I mean, all the little things you don't think about. I had no food. I couldn't leave my house for like 7 days, 8 days. I don't know, it's a long time, more than that. And I had no food. And just the stupid little things, not enough water. So getting COVID has become part of, I guess, what you would call a human stain. It's kind of a demonization of the disease and an attempt to attribute sickness to sin. Okay, and this is where it's at. It's really, if you get COVID, you're almost ashamed to tell people you have it or that you've had it, and yet you owe it to everybody in your circle to say, hey, I tested positive for COVID. If you've been with me, you should get tested. And it's okay to tell people you've had COVID. Murray and I are jokingly saying we're gonna have a party. Have you had COVID? No. Well, then you can't come to the party. Okay. We're gonna do the opposite. If you've had COVID, you can come because we know you're not gonna get it from us. But if you haven't had COVID, you can't come. I don't know. That's a joke. Okay. Don't take it literally. So what's happening here is we started out somewhat assigning the burden of bearing this disease to the lesser among us. And it almost tried to define the society itself, like, oh, well, I'm above COVID. I'm not going to get it. I'm going to protect myself. Well, nobody's above it, okay? Nobody. We can all get it. We can all be exposed to it, and isn't it funny to hear everybody's different opinions of what they're doing right, what you're doing wrong? Like, I know people who say, I can't believe you had 4 people over for dinner, and yet they have a housekeeper coming to their house every week that leaves and comes back on the weekends. They don't know where the housekeeper's been, but that's okay. I mean, and then they're hanging out with people whose family members have never been vaccinated. And then you got the anti-vaxxers, and I still struggle with the anti-vaxxer, because you could say the anti-vaxxers are probably saying, see, everybody's getting COVID, even being vaccinated. Yes, that may be true. People are getting COVID with vaccines and boosters. But the truth of the matter is, Murray is a great example of someone that had 2 vaccines and 2 boosters, and he barely got sick. So the good news is he's through it and he can get on with his life. Well, how long can he get on with his life and not worry? That we don't have an answer to. Maybe 6 months, maybe 4 months. But one thing's for sure, for the next several months, we're not going to get it. That doesn't mean we couldn't get another variant, but more than likely, we're in a pretty good position. If you're vaccinated and boosted and you just had Omicron, the saving grace for you, if you can get your head around it, is that you're probably finally safe. And you can go and get on a plane once you're past the 10-day period, and preferably you test negative, but you can test positive for the next 3 months. So that doesn't work either. Okay, you can be negative and not have any symptoms and not be at all infectious and still test positive. But once you get beyond that 10, 12-day period to be safe, okay, you're supposedly not infectious and you can travel and you can go live your life and you can go out and sit in a restaurant and finally not worry about getting it or giving it. So that's the upside of getting it. So I wanted to share this information with you because I think that what's important is one of the most important messages of my talk tonight is that you can get it. It's everywhere. Everyone's getting it. Please, like Murray said in the last Zoom call, the enemy's the virus. The enemy is not each other. Don't judge people. Don't make them feel bad. Don't do the guilt, blame, anger, shame thing to them. They feel bad enough already. You know, it's like it's like COVID's like dirty. It's like some dirty little secret. You know, you're not supposed to tell anybody. You can tell people, you know, listen, I mean, I've had it and I'm getting beyond it. And it wasn't horrific, but it wasn't great. And I got through it. And I sat home on New Year's Eve and ate junk food. And New Year's Day, I mean, I just haven't done anything. I've been pretty reclusive, but at least I had Murray with me. But now I'm getting my freedom back and I can get out again. And we are going to, you know, we canceled our ski trip. The irony is 2 weeks before because we didn't want to get COVID. And then I got COVID anyway. But thank God I canceled the ski trip because I wouldn't have been able to go anyway. So the whole thing is weird. And you see what's happening in the airline industry. Employees aren't showing up to work because they don't want to get COVID or because they have COVID. And so they don't show up to work. And Ray, you know, is saying the politics of the virus is worse than the virus itself. And, you know, that is true. And you have to define the politics, but the politics basically are what is happening in the world and our country, but really amongst ourselves and our loved ones and our friends and everybody thinking their way is the only way. And that anybody else, you know, that doesn't agree with them is wrong. And that's simply not true. We're all vulnerable. We can all get it. We will survive it. I hope, knock on wood, and we will move to the next phase of our life. Hopefully, what did it do for me? I'm actually okay that I got it now because I'm glad it's over. And I know people would say, gee, I wish I'd get it just so I would get done with it. And I'd say, are you insane? I don't want to get it because I'm afraid I'm going to get, you know, asthma, pneumonia. But now that I've had it and it wasn't so bad, and I'm going to move on and I don't have to worry about it for a while, that's a relief. So, you know, that's good. The other thing is it really made me realize how important, and I've always known, your health is, what's really important, you know, to have people around you that don't piss you off and stress you out. You don't need those people in your life. You don't need people that make you feel bad about yourself. And if you have someone that's, you know, in your ear telling you what a fucked up mess you are because you have COVID, well, say bye. And don't come back, by the way. I don't need your shit. I mean, it's one of the things it did for me is it really reinforced who's important in my life, who matters, who loves me, who's going to love me unconditionally. Made me appreciate my health. It made me appreciate my self-time like never before. Like, I mean, the last time I felt so out of energy and unable to function was when I got hit by the truck. And that was 2 years ago, you know? So yes, it does feel a bit like you have the plague. You feel like you got some dirty little thing, you know, and that you shouldn't be around anybody. And people call, I've told everybody, they'll say, how you doing? I'm like, I've got COVID. I've got the COVID. Yeah, no, I'm like, yes. And what's really interesting is when I'd say, yeah, I've got COVID, then they'd say, I've got COVID too, or my son's got COVID. And I could tell you so many stories. One of my dear friends' son had a big wedding planned in England. They flew in 3 weeks early. Boom, the COVID outbreak pandemic happened, this Omicron, they had to cancel the wedding. And there are a million stories like that. So I can tell you people who were headed to their family's house for Christmas got a call and said, we've got COVID, and they had to turn around, take the presents and go home. And I'm still sitting here with my Christmas presents. And the whole year, it's been a weird year, and it's been a weird experience. And if anything, this variant might have shown all of us our true colors. And I hope that your true colors are beautiful like a rainbow, because a lot of people's aren't. And that's what I saw that I didn't like, these judgmental, critical people that think that for some reason or another, they're too good to get it. Well, really, good luck with that, my friends, because it's out there. So once again, I just want to remind you that please have someone, or if you don't have it, go to the drugstore and get the thermometer and the Tylenol and the Advil and the pulse ox and the NyQuil and the Z-Pack, if you can call your doctor and call, and you can now, with all this telemedicine, and get a Z-Pack. So if you start to get bronchitis, you can start the antibiotic. So that's all I want to talk about. I really think it's important that I tell you that I had it, because I want you to know that it's not as scary as you think, and it is out there, and it's okay to admit that you've had it, and it's okay to get beyond it. And that doesn't mean you should go out and not wear a mask. And there were a couple situations I was in, and right at Christmas time, I'm pretty careful, but we went to this one restaurant, and we were in the bar area in a mask, and there was music, and they just jammed everybody into the restaurant. I mean, there were people like smashed up against me, and I'm like, oh my God, this does not feel safe. So if you're somewhere in an environment that doesn't feel safe, I said this last week on my Zoom stuff, but if you're somewhere in an environment that doesn't feel safe, don't go in or get out. If you feel like this is just too close, get out. If your gut instinct is telling you not to take that trip, don't take it. If your gut instinct is telling you to say no to someone's event, say no. And I said this on my social media. If you can't decide whether or not you should do something, just say no. If it's questionable at all, just say no. So right now, what you do, what you think, and what you want to do matters. And so follow your heart, follow your gut, hang around with people that you trust, limit your social gatherings, provide places where meets. You want to have lunch with someone, meet them outside. I want to have dinner with someone, sit outside. Kids seem to be vulnerable to this right now. So if you have young children, I'd love to see you get them vaccinated. If you don't, that's your call, but then be careful about who you expose them to. So those are some of the things you can do. No one can make these decisions for you. You have to decide for yourself what feels comfortable, what feels right, what feels safe, and go live your life. Go live your life, because most people are going to get it. And I mean that, I believe that. I think people are going to get it. And maybe you've already had it. Maybe you have it now. Maybe you're sitting here and you and I have a kinship. We've had COVID. And that's okay too, because one of the things that was really helpful to me is there is a feeling of isolation when you have COVID. There is. You just feel like run down, and but one of the things that was really helpful for me, speaking of that feeling of isolation, was to call other people who had COVID. I'd heard had COVID, and I like, tell me what they were further along or whatever, and I could say, how long did this last, and did you have this side effect, and what other were your other symptoms? And there was a definite sense of unity. People seemed to say that everybody seems to get tired, and everybody seemed to get a headache. That was my first symptom. And then for me, stuffy nose. But not everybody gets a headache, and not everybody gets tired. Not everybody has the same, the same symptoms. And yes, you want to keep your immune system strong, eating well, take your supplements, drink tons of water, limit your intake of alcohol and junk food. And it's really hard when you do get Omicron to exercise. I don't even know that that's something you want to do anyway. One thing I will tell you is when your body says lay down, you just need to lay down. You need to really lay down and rest. Take it one day at a time. Read some good books. Fill yourself with some positive information. Watch some funny things on TV. And if you're fortunate enough to have someone with you who has it too, that's helpful, because Murray didn't really realize he had it till day 4 or 5. So by the time he got to me, I was alone for like 6 days. And I didn't like it. You know, I'm like, I'm ready to get married tomorrow. I mean, vulnerable. I don't want to be alone anymore. So it was interesting, you know, it was eye-opening to me, you know, it made me realize how much I do love the person I'm with and how much I'm ready to be with him full time, and how much I appreciate life, and the simple things are the best. You know, my dogs, just having like these 2 little dogs, and they were there and they would live by my side and they were looking out for me, and it just made me feel like I wasn't alone. So if you get it, don't feel bad, don't beat yourself up, don't judge yourself, don't let other people do that to you either. If they do, get them out of your life for a while. And like I said, go out to the store tonight and make sure you've got everything you need. Maybe make a big pot of chili or French onion soup or chicken soup, just in case. Or just keep some canned or frozen things around, whatever. Go to the store, go to Whole Foods and pick up some stuff and get all the stuff I told you to get, so that you're prepared. It's kind of like the earthquake. You want to be prepared if your lights go off and you need a flashlight. Well, it's the same with COVID, you know. You want to be prepared if, oh my God, and then I'm sitting here in the middle of horrible COVID, and we have one of the worst downpours we've ever had in LA, and my roof starts leaking down on the 3rd floor, and it's like boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh my God. And it's like 80-mile-an-hour winds and the rain's pouring down and I'm breaking out in sweat and I can't breathe. It was like, are you freaking kidding me? That was a drag. It was almost like, I mean, just lonely and sad, and I really felt like shit. But I feel I feel like I'm coming back, and so I'll be back with you in 2 weeks on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. Meanwhile, follow me on Let Go with Lucinda. Follow me on YouTube, Lucinda Bassett, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I think I'm on TikTok now, edit new. I love you all. Stay safe out there. Peace out.